Hello folks, Dom Lawson here from Metal Hammer magazine, the finest magazine that there has ever been. And that should be a catchphrase that they should use to advertise it, I think, as long as I get a royalty. Yes, so yesterday it was the thrilling numbers 15 to 11 in my top 20 Metal Hammer friendly albums of 2011. I won't bother explaining why I'm saying Metal Hammer friendly again, because I've explained it twice and it wasn't interesting either of the first two times. And today I'm going to go through the next 5 albums in my extraordinarily exciting list. Barely got the energy to do it, but there you go. It's Wednesday, and we're going to start with number 10. Wow, Dom, this is really exciting stuff. And I've got my CDs ready again so that I can wave them at you pointlessly, as if that somehow enhances the experience by me showing you what the CD actually looks like. But there you go. One has to get one's joy where one's can. Fucking hell, Dom. More coffee, less coffee. Who knows what the problem is? Right. So my number 10 is one that I did an iron sandwich on quite early on in this pathetic ongoing debacle, and it is the frankly amazing "A Fragile King" by Valon Fire. And here it is. Slightly. There you go. Let's have it quite close up there so you can look at that rather marvellous artwork that's slightly ruined by a Century Media sticker. It's Greg McIntosh from Paradise Lost, and it features other folk too, other luminaries, is that a word? I think it is, from the British scene, including Hamish Glencross from My Dying Bride, who is an absolutely fucking splendid human being. And Adrian Erlandson, of course, of At the Gates and Paradise Lost fame, also another splendid human being, and a fella called Scoot on bass. Not Scooter from the Muppets, but Scoot, who was in Doom, who were a fucking amazing band, or probably still are a fucking amazing band. Anyway, yes, Valon Fire. I spoke at length about it before, and it's an album that musically it just absolutely kind of hits the spot for me. It's a death metal record, I guess, but it's got that filthy, horrid kind of grim and bleak sound of stuff like early Autopsy, the classic Celtic Frost stuff. And the early kind of Scandinavian death metal, almost like the pre Left Hand Path stuff, got the really early stuff, the Grave demos and Nirvana 2002 and stuff like that, just absolute filth, and obviously a little touch of very early Paradise Lost in there too, because Greg McIntosh has written this, and I just think it's an astonishing album on many levels. musically it's wonderful, but again, as I explained before, and I'm sure everybody knows, the album was inspired by the death of Greg's father, who died from cancer, as did my own, and that's as a result. That's it really resonated with me on an emotional level, and I think the lyrics are particularly brilliant. I think, with a lot of death metal albums, lyrics aren't, are almost like a secondary issue a lot of the time, because they're either about gore and splatter and stuff, which is great, and I love all that, or they're about Satan, or they're about war. And although there are some great lyricists in death metal, it's almost kind of it's not the hardest thing in the world to write really grim lyrics if you're somebody that spends a lot of time watching horror films and reading books about war. It's not the greatest challenge in the world. But there are some, the lyrics on this album, I think, are moving, because they come from a genuine place, and from an honest place, and from a place of genuine sorrow, rather than pretend boo-hoo emo sorrow, or from kind of overly melodramatic aren't we terrible and heading for the grave kind of sorrow that you get from a lot of doom bands. And it's just, I don't know, there's just something about it that really touched me, and throw in the fact that the album itself is an absolute stormer musically. It kind of, I don't know, it's just something really special about it, I think. And I don't know, I won't read out any of the lyrics, because there's a track called Seeds, which really kind of got to me, and the final verse of it is: "Resign my heart, poor beast, sleep sound, for the seeds have spread, the blackest of days. Farewell, my king, you must rest your head." And I'm almost welling up reading that, because it's, losing your dad is a big thing, and to lose it to something as shitty and awful as cancer is a vile thing to have to go through, and I think Greg has done the best of all tributes, really, the best possible tribute, by making a really great and artful piece of music that I think will endure. It's a special record. I hope that it's not just a one-off as well, because I think Valon Fire has, this project has legs, and it's a special piece of work, I think. So I recommend that to you very highly, and that's my number 10. My number 9. Is this little beauty. Now, I've waffled on at length about. There you go. There it is. Megadeth 13. I've waffled on at length about this before. Everybody knows how much I love Megadeth. Well, not everybody. I mean, in fact, most people don't know that I love Megadeth, because most people don't know who I am, and even a lot of the people who know who I am couldn't give a fuck. But yeah, 13. I mean, Endgame was my favourite album of 2009, and this. I mean, I don't necessarily think this is an inferior record. It's a different record, really, in many ways, but it's another incredibly strong Megadeth record, and I think it's one that if you live with it for a little bit, I think the songs that might not seem so remarkable first time around really do click as it goes along, and there's not a weak track on it. It's I have certain favourites. Without a doubt, I love Public Enemy No. 1. I think that's a brilliant song, and the video is just fucking spectacular. If you haven't seen that with the chimpanzees and that, it's just hilarious. I love Whose Life Is It Anyways, even though it's called Whose Life Is It Anyways. Don't like that. Bit American, but then he is American, so I suppose fair enough. Never Dead is a brilliant song. New World Order is great. Black Swan is one of the catchiest songs that Megadeth have ever put out. I mean, it's, as I've said before, it's an album that kind of harks back to Countdown to Extinction era Megadeth, with a touch of the kind of cryptic writings and a dash of Endgame, and I just think it's it shows how in touch with what metal fans and with what Megadeth fans in particular want from the band, that this record sounds the way it does, and without boshing on about Metallica yet again, I think they could learn a lesson from this, because this is the kind of record that is very few people are going to be disappointed by, and it hasn't been a controversial album. No one, there's obviously there are people that don't like it or don't rate it particularly, but it's not an album that's made people go, oh, for fuck's sake, what's Dave Mustaine doing? He's made a really good Megadeth record. That's what he's doing, and I think if Metallica could just pull their shit together and do something that's on a par with this, even vaguely close to being as good as this, then they'll regain a ton of credibility. I'm going to give their EP a listen later as well, the Beyond Magnetic thing, because the bits that I've heard from it all sounded better than anything on Death Magnetic, which says a lot about the decision making process there. But anyway, I might review that later in the week. That would be remarkably dull, Dom, wouldn't it? So there you go, 13 by Megadeth. That's my number 9 album of 2011. Lovely, lovely Dave Mustaine. Okay, and my number 8 album of 2011 is this fantastic record, which is Human Remains by Hell. If you don't know about this album, then you've not been paying attention to the world of heavy metal quite closely enough, I would say. Hell were a band, I guess, from the new wave of British heavy metal era. The founder member of the band sadly passed away before they ever, had the opportunity to be as big as they probably deserved to be. They were very ahead of their time. I would say they were kind of the British equivalent of Merciful Fate in many ways. Very, very kind of adventurous and almost progressive take on the new wave of British heavy metal sound. And our Lord and Saviour Andy Sneap has resurrected the band, because he was kind of inspired and I guess mentored to some degree by Hell in his early days before forming Sabbath. And embarking on his own career as a heavy metal guitarist. And obviously Andy's, one of the greatest producers in metal today. And he's kind of basically got the original, more or less the original lineup back together, and basically re-recorded all of Hell's classic material But without fucking around with it too much. To be fair, they're pretty close to the originals. It's just they're played more precisely and produced with a very modern production, but a modern production that takes nothing away from the atmosphere of the songs. And I think it's just a glorious heavy metal record. An absolutely timeless sound. If you're not into the traditional metal stuff, then the chances are it's not going to be your bag, and that's totally fair enough. So, hang on a minute. I just noticed that my flipping battery on my laptop's going. Hang on. Here we go. So professional. Might be worth actually plugging it in, Dom. There you go. There we are. How marvellous. Yeah, but it's a record that well, what can I say? It's one that it's quite a dense record, and not in the sense of stupid, but dense in the sense of there's a lot of ideas and a lot of great musical moments in it. And like I say, that progressive edge that Merciful Fate had, it's proper heavy metal in the sense that it's traditional heavy metal, but it doesn't sound out of place in the modern era, and in fact in many ways it feels more forward thinking and more imaginative and more inventive and more exciting than a lot of the more self-consciously traditional and straightforward heavy metal that comes out today. Why people would bother listening to cheesy power metal when they can listen to this instead, I have no idea, because this is just it's balls out heavy metal all the way through. And I thoroughly recommend this version of it. Actually, it's the special edition. I don't know if you can still get that. I assume you can still get this, because it comes with a bonus disc which has all the original demos made between 1982 and 1986, which is a great kind of reference for what the songs originally sounded like. But it's brilliant. I think Andy Sneap should be extraordinarily proud of what he's done here, because he's resurrected a band that were virtually unknown, and that never really got the credit they deserved, and he's turned it into something that's totally relevant and that is exciting for both the older and a new generation. And I've sadly failed to see them live so far, but apparently they're spectacular. So if you get a chance to go and see Hell live, and do it, and certainly check this album out if you like heavy metal, because it's just brilliant, just a fantastic record. The one track on it, The Devil's Deadly Weapon, my God, what a tune that is, what a fantastic piece of music. So that's my number 8 in my list. Right, my number 7 is, this is supposed to be a metal top 20, but obviously, like I say, Metal Hammer friendly, so there are things that kind of exist on the periphery of metal that maybe aren't even very metal at all, but are linked in one way or another. And the Devin Townsend project, Ghost, it's not a metal record, is it? Let's be perfectly honest with you. It's kind of, and I use this phrase knowing that it's going to put a lot of people off, but it's kind of hippie new age music, really. It's largely acoustic. It's very atmospheric. It's very Devin Townsend, without a doubt. It certainly is not something that will freak out people who listen to the majority of his catalogue, because he's done plenty of mellow stuff in the past before. Excuse me. Oh dear. But it's I don't know. Just look at that serene vista on the cover there. A wonderful album cover. But it's just it's a beautiful record, and that's something you don't get to say very often about metal records. But like I say, it's not particularly metal, but it's just I don't know, if you need something to chill out to, this is the chill out album of the year, without a doubt, and the songs are fabulous. I think Devin produces such a huge amount of music, and his quality control is actually extremely high. There's very little that he's put out that I don't like, or that that you don't tend to get much filler on his records. But he has put out so much that there are one or two albums that maybe kind of have peaks and troughs of interest, and Ghost doesn't. It kind of drifts serenely along for the best part of an hour, and it's just a wonderful thing. It's just some of the songs on this, man, it's just, the opening track, Fly, is gorgeous. Baby is gorgeous. It's just a wonderful thing, wonderful record. And if you caught Devin on his acoustic tour this year, he played a couple of tracks off this, and just I don't know, there's something really special about Devin, and apart from the fact he's one of the nicest people on the planet, and ferociously intelligent in the most unassuming way, but he's a real, he's a creative giant, and I think there's a reason why people kind of revere him in the way they do, because he's all about the music. And this is an album that I think a lot of metalheads will have picked this up, because it's part of the 4 album set, that started with Key and moved on with Addicted and then Deconstruction and this. And it's just, it's a wonderful way to end that quadrilogy. And like I say, it's a beautiful record. And, what can I say? If you something to chill out to, it doesn't get much better than that, really. So that's my number 7 of 2011. And rather appropriately, my number 6 is this, Deconstruction by the Devin Townsend Project, which couldn't be further away from Ghost if it tried, really. I mean, this is... In many ways, I think this album feels like a kind of clearing of the decks for Devin in terms of his more fucking mental and brutal and over the top ideas. Great album cover, that again. I mean, this is the deranged, left field, fucking 100% bonkers, progressive metal insanity fest that Devin's been threatening to make all along. I mean, if you love Strapping Young Lad and you liked albums like Terrier or even stuff like Physicist and Infinity and stuff like that, I mean, this is like the culmination of all of that, but to the power of 10. It's absolutely fucking bonkers, and it's got so many brilliant guest stars on it that, but they don't appear to be, I mean, they're not guest stars that kind of dominate, or it's not like duets or anything, but you've got, Michael Ackerfelt's on it, Ishan's on it, Joe Duplantier from Gajira's on it, Greg from Dillinger's on it, it's just astonishing, really. And the fella from Between the Buried and Me's on it somewhere as well, I think. Thomas Giles, or whatever his name is. Just an absolutely amazing record, an absolute experience, and one of those albums that you have to listen to from beginning to end, because it's like a good old fashioned prog concept album, really, in many ways, and it has so many kind of, the dynamics on it are astonishing, and there's great tunes on it as well, but there are bits of it that are incredibly complex. But the thing with Devin stuff is, unlike a lot of those kind of Dillinger clone bands that just basically throw 300 riffs together and try and dazzle everybody with their technical prowess, with Devin, it's always about the song, and it's always about creating an atmosphere, and there's a lot, as ludicrous as some of this is, and it's purposefully ludicrous. You never lose the thread. It's always exciting, it's always coherent, and it's always emotionally powerful. And I think, if out of the 4 albums, Key, Addicted, Deconstruction, and Ghost, this is my favourite, and not just because it's the heaviest, but because it's the most adventurous, I think, and the most challenging to listen to, and it's not something you're going to grasp straight away. But it's thrilling. It's a genuinely thrilling record, and a fine way to end this Iron Sandwich, I think, is to say let's hold up 2 Devin Townsend albums, do this, woo, and it's all exciting stuff, just brilliant. Devin Townsend Project. I love you, Devin, if you're watching this, which you won't be. Anyway, this is Dom Lawson. That was numbers 10 to 6 in my top 20 Hammer-friendly albums of 2011, and I'll do the top 5 tomorrow, which will be moderately more exciting, probably because it's the top 5, but probably actually probably not as predictable as the list so far. Probably my top 5 might be a bit more surprising. I don't know. Might not be. Who cares, really? Anyway, so thanks for watching this. Buy all of the albums that I've mentioned so far, because they're all really great, and hopefully once you've seen this, you'll be suitably excited that you'll want to watch tomorrow's Iron Sandwich too. So heavy metal, everybody. Satan bless you all, and take care, have a good day, and I'll bore you all shitless tomorrow. Cheers.